So, first off, I would like to start off by saying if you have not watched parts 1 and 2, I would encourage you to go back and watch those two. It would have been the last two videos I posted, because otherwise this might not make sense to you. So, picking up from part 2, I want to say that, as I've expressed, that moment and that lie that I bought into changed the entire course of my life. From being essayed to buying into that lie, building up anger and rage, a wall around me to protect me, then very quickly turned into self-harm. And I was the type of self-harm person that nobody knew. Like, my mom didn't know until I was in my 30s, kind of didn't know. And I was very quiet during this stage of life. I was very good at covering up. I would cut or carve even in places that people could not see unless I was getting out of a shower. This then turned into an eating disorder, to the point it got so bad that I ended up actually having a grand mal seizure when I was little, around, I want to say 9 or 10. Again, like I said, this all happened really quickly after that situation took place. I had a seizure, had to get rushed to the ER. The doctors told my mom it was because I wasn't eating, which was very accurate. I was not eating, like, at all. From that seizure happening at school, that turned into a whole nother scenario, which I will go into at a different point in time. But I share all of this to say that you never know when your life will begin to take a detour. You never know what that detour is going to be, and you never know what the enemy is going to use to detour your life. So as parents, we have to be diligent on protecting our kids. It is our job to protect them. It is our job to lead, guide, and direct them. It's our job to show them the way. It's our job to disciple them, to get the word in them when they are young. So as it says, when they grow old, they will not depart from it. Because that scripture alone is what my mom clung to for 12 years. And I will tell you that story later on. I also want to say that I have probably been through a piece of something awful in everybody else's story at some point in my life. Whether it be essayed, whether it just be physically abused, mentally abused, emotionally abused, whether it be an eating disorder, whether it be self-harm, whether it be addiction, whether it be a freaky problem, I guess you could say. I'm trying to follow guidelines here. Whether it be trafficked, whether it be, you name it, I have probably lived through it. And I would not trade any of my hurt, my pain, or my scars for anything. Because I know each and every one of those hurts and scars is going to impact somebody else's life. And it is just like the scripture says, that even though the enemy meant it to destroy me, God will use it for his good and for the saving of many people. And that is a verse I cling to, because it's easy to be bitter. It's easy to be angry. It's hard to heal. It's hard to have peace. It's hard to forgive. But I choose forgiveness because once I realized that holding on to unforgiveness was actually keeping me bound and keeping that person having power over me, as soon as I realized that, I began to work on forgiveness. And forgiveness is like onions, as Donkey would say off of Shrek. It is like onions. There are layers and layers of forgiveness, and sometimes you may have to forgive the same person for the same instance over and over and over again. But forgiveness does not mean forgetfulness. Forgiveness means I forgive you for what you did, but I'm still going to have boundaries around you. Forgiveness means that hurt no longer makes me angry, makes me want to be vengeful, but allows me to love you from a distance. So anyways, this is just a little bitty piece of the iceberg of my story, and I hope that it spoke to y'all. I hope that y'all will stick around because I plan on sharing much, much more. But I just wanted somebody to hear that, first off, it's a lie from the enemy. Second off, you don't have to live with that stronghold in your life. And third off, if you are not careful, something that early on in your life can completely detour your whole life, which set me off for 20 years plus. So I hope it impacts you today. And I would also like to share that a lot of times healing also means sharing your story. And every time you share your story, you heal a little bit more. Even though it's hard, even though it's uncomfortable, it brings a little bit more healing and a little bit more of that darkness that kept you bound in silence. A little more light gets to shine through. And I heard a shirt, not heard, but I saw a shirt one time that said, "We are all like glow sticks, we just need to be broken to light up a room." And that is so true. Because in my brokenness, I found God. In my brokenness, I found healing, I found freedom, I found deliverance. And in my brokenness, I found the light that got to shine through the darkness, that dragged me out of that deep, dark hole, that pit that I never thought I would come out of. And one of these days, I'm going to share a picture of before I came to Christ and after. And it is a physical manifestation of God that you can see in my countenance, a difference. So anyways, there's the final look.